Our plan. So, hi everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Morse. I'm a futurist, an author, and an AI advisor. And I have the task of trying to keep up with all of the ever-changing world of AI. And change is that constant for us. You know, every day we're waking up to new models, new advancements, new solutions that eventually work their way down to us. And ultimately, it's something we're going to have to get used to. The constant for us is going to be change. And it's making AI and how we navigate AI a team sport. You know, we can no longer, one organization, no one institution can actually manage this themselves. And with that brief, every year Cavell kindly asked me to come along and bring along a customer or a forum member. And I chair probably one of the largest UK forums of around about 350 individuals like you that are trying to navigate this transformation. And this year I'm thrilled to bring along Ben, who will introduce himself in a moment, who is living and breathing this avalanche of new technology and trying to work out what works for his organization. And I bring him here today in this, I guess, a closed forum, really, to share a candid, a beyond the brochure, real view of what's actually happening. So I've got heaps of questions I'm going to put to him, but I think we might have a chance for a few from the floor as well, subject to time. But without further ado, I'll introduce Ben. And Ben, if you give us a brief intro to yourself, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, obviously, Ben Muncaster. So, my background is operations. So, although I work for an accountancy firm, my actual sort of skill set really is operations. Don't know anything about accountancy, really. So, no tax questions, please. So, I have also been in engineering. So, have like a Lean Six Sigma background from that. So, I think that is probably why I have ended up with the brief of delivering an AI strategy. So, and the business that I work for is around 60 people, so I think we hit the small business brief.
Perfectly, bang on, and thank you, Ben. And I think let's get straight into it. So I think the first thing is, what started the AI journey for you and for Northern Accountants?
I think the honest answer is there is a feeling you're getting left behind at the moment. So in accountancy at the moment is very software driven. So there's a lot of room for potential. There's a lot of noise in the market, and we just needed to be in that space and make sure that we didn't get left behind. So pretty much sort of early to middle part of last year, it was we need an AI strategy, go deliver one. So very much sort of did it from a standing start, really.
So you got the hot potato, and did you feel that the pressure was coming from all sides, above, sideways, customers, people?
I think it was just driven by the leadership within the business. It's, I mean, it was definitely a hot potato. But
it's a gift that keeps giving, though, isn't it?
It is. But I think once you demystify it, it's not actually as scary as you think. But it is a huge, vast, sort of evolving sort of situation. So there's a lot to take in very quickly.
And the headlines don't help, do they? Telling us that we're all going to be taken over by robots and we don't need it, especially accountants. That's often the one there. They say we won't need accountants in the future. I think we probably both worked out that's not true. But
no, definitely not.
Yeah. And how clear was the strategy from those early conversations? How did you kind of get to that next stage?
I think it was confusing to begin with because there's obviously so much noise and rhetoric and stories, and there's so many products in the marketplace. It's very difficult to navigate exactly what that means in terms of delivering a strategy and a sort of a joined up sort of thinking within a business that actually makes some change. It's like we can all see the highlight reels, but what does that actually mean for your business, and how does that actually benefit people, and ultimately your efficiencies, your bottom line, and that kind of stuff. So cutting through that was key to it.
Really tricky. And I guess the bigger problem as accountants, regulated industry, how did you work out where AI might actually have some value and some opportunity?
Yeah, so very aware of the risks with the industry that we're in, but the other thing is that there's so much non-value add activity within businesses, and that's internal before it even hits the clients, is that you've got so much sort of landing space to go at. For us, it was concentrate internally on processes that we could make big gains with, but and free up the time for the team, really. So that's the way that we approached it, and it is a learning curve. So we set off on a lot of pilots. So we kind of cherry picked a lot of potential opportunities and projects that we could test proof of concept, really. I think there's a phrase that you used early on, which was the art of the possible. So I think understanding what that actually is and what it means is really key to that. And over time, you start to work out, well, actually, that is possible, and that's actually not as complicated or as expensive as it could be. And then other things, you start thinking, maybe stay clear of that. And then it gives you a kind of a grounding to sort of make better decisions on a sort of bigger, wider scale after that.
And were the opportunities where you thought they were going to be? Because I guess you've heard the headlines, you've kind of, the press mill is moving, so you were aware it might do this, 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 but were the actual answers where you thought they were? Yeah,
I mean, in terms of the press headlines, I think if you look at it skeptically, I think that's a good place to start. In terms of where I thought they would be, I would say so, but I think when you're running a strategy internally within a business, you've got a massive advantage in that you know the business. So if you know the business and you know the product, you're halfway there. So we did a lot of planning and work to get us to a point where we were in a position where we said those are the areas that we feel like we can tackle and will make a definite benefit to the business, I suppose.
Yeah, because you guys were all over the detail, because often I work with organisations where the processes are not even mapped, but you had that nailed. So. Yeah,
and I think when we originally sat down and you put you're going to test me now, aren't you? Is it a 13-step process?
It's 15, but this too will.
But I'm looking at that, and I think, again, when you're looking at things that we probably had an advantage on, is because, we were a process-driven business anyway, and I am aware that that's because of my background in Lean Six Sigma, and I was able to bring that into the business that we were in. But people were used to process mapping, people were used to looking at value stream mapping, people were used to delivering projects and identifying efficiencies, and people were receptive to change. So I feel like we had a lot of things going in our favour from that point of view. Yeah. So it was really just taking that and then being able to not try and do everything at once, and having a logical sort of approach to how we were going to tackle it. So.
Sure. And again, it did impress me how methodical you were and how much detail you had on those kind of mapping processes. But once you had that...
I do love a process map.
You do love a process map. I learned that quickly. And learned a lot from it, actually, as well. And ultimately, I think digressing slightly here, but AI for us, it feels as though this is going to be the silver bullet. It's going to solve everything, but actually a lot of the time it's about inefficiencies of the existing process and very light automation, isn't it? Often.
Oh, hugely, yeah. I mean, I think there's no you can make a really bad process just quicker. The process is key. Data is key, and security is key. I think the technology is almost sort of not an afterthought, but you've got to get that foundation right before you even start thinking about the next step, really.
Sure. And I guess let's get into that. So, when it came to identifying specific AI solutions, how did you approach? How did we approach that? And what did we learn?
I think when we were looking at specific AI solutions, it was a case of we've got two options really, because you can either go off the shelf or we can use our development teams and our partners to build bespoke or to sort of put something together. And I think having that partner network was really important, because we could present the vision and our ideas, but again, we're a small business with a limited budget, so getting to a point where we were comfortable with the options, but with some real expertise around us that could tell us that's possible, talk about the risks, talk about the potential options was really important. So we can make a judgment on ROI, and we measure our non-value add activity within the business, so we know where our inefficiencies are. So it's just pinpointing projects and then test again, I suppose.
And I think that's one learn that I took away as an advisor coming in and helping. These are the solutions, they might do this, but I was struck by that a lot of this is just about understanding the process, mapping the process, making the efficiencies, and then AI, looking at where that can actually drop in. Now, that was kind of the conclusion we drew quite quickly, wasn't it? But we did go out there, and we came to London, and we went all over the place to look at solutions, and we saw some very flashy demos But what
We
was
also
your,
had some really good debriefs as well.
with some good debriefs, yeah, but very good debriefs. But what was your thoughts on that? Because, you know, great to be wowed by the tech, but how did you feel?
Yeah, I think, again, it comes back to that skepticism piece, really. So especially when you've got limited budgets, you've got to cut through the noise and cut through the marketing. I think sometimes the marketing is in advance of the technology. And I think when you dig down through the claims, does it really do what it says it's going to do? And I think people go to market quickly and they have a product that on the surface makes sense. But again, if we're going to commit to software and to options and to providers, it's can they actually do what they say they're going to do? And I think that's really, really key, because if you put these technologies or these partners or these processes into action and they fail under duress, you've got a problem, and it takes time to come back. And those problems could be huge, because they could be detrimental to your clients and the client experience, or it could be you could have data issues. So it's just you've got to be confident.
Yeah. So I think for organisations looking to provide services to the likes of Northern Accounts and yourself, the key thing there really is, you know, great to wow with a demo, but what you're really thinking is this going to stand up when we get 60 people using it and it all goes horribly wrong?
Yeah, because that's not good for anybody,
Yeah.
and especially if you've put your name on it.
Yeah.
And so it's you've got to have a product that does what it says it's going to do.
Yeah.
I can't come anywhere past that, because again, you see so many, and they just don't do it. And we've been bitten. We've spent so much time testing products, getting to probably 89% of the way through, and it falls down at the last end.
Yeah.
However, I would rather it fall down at 90% before we've put it live into the business or into the market, rather than go live with it and then find the problems afterwards.
Sure. So robustness of the solution and demo, test, pilot, to make sure that, you know, you've got that confidence rather than the demo saying.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and if it's off the shelf with 100%, and then if it's something we're doing internally with partners, it's getting our kind of wider network to almost check their homework, and stress test it, and I think that kind of 360 analysis is really important, because
Sure.
it's going so fast, and we're not experts. We haven't got these huge teams. We've got to be really, really careful, and I think we have to use our ingenuity and our
Be efficient with time.
yeah, absolutely. So we have got one massive benefit in that we are agile as a small business, and I think
Yes.
when I sort of say I'm around your forum members and I'm thinking, wow, these people work for these huge companies, and I listen to how they approach things. It's sometimes I think, actually, we're miles ahead, and we do some really, really clever stuff, but then you also realise that they've got true expertise within the business, and we don't have that luxury, so we just have to approach things differently, I suppose.
Lots of resource in the big firms, but actually one thing, chairing the forum, what I love to see is that we've got some enormous organisations there with no, you know, I won't say limitless budgets, but generous budgets, and then a small firm, you know, really doing things. What often strikes me is you are way ahead. You know, I think there's this misconception that everybody's racing ahead of us in AI, and I think individually we all feel slightly behind the curve. You know, should we be doing more? Should we be investing more in our learning? But actually, I think taking the steps you guys have taken, you're on par, if not slightly above a lot of the firms I work with. Yeah,
and I think, there's so much information around, and there's so many people that really do understand the whole sort of process. If you understand your business, it's real. It's project management at the end of the day. It's pulling in the right people to do the right things at the right time. Yeah. And it's not really more complicated than that. You just need to be able to control it. And I think, again, if you can measure it as well, it really helps. Yeah. So if you're looking at the efficiencies or the ROI, and it's not always efficiencies. It's sometimes you're improving client experience. So it doesn't actually save you any time. But it does make the business better. And ultimately, you're looking at either being more efficient or being better.
Yeah. Do you know what strikes me as we've worked on this, and we've been on it a while now, haven't we? What always strikes me is it feels as though we're justifying this AI title, but actually what it's done is it's just AI is a lever to talk about change and to review the processes, to look for those efficiencies, to look at new ways of doing it. AI is actually quite a small part of it, isn't it? If you think about the magnitude of change that we've achieved, AI is actually still a small part of it, but without AI, would we have got this far?
Definitely not, definitely not. And I think that's probably that's when you talk about misconceptions, I think that's a really interesting point, because people talk about AI is going to take over the world and take everybody's jobs and make everything more efficient. It probably will do. But right now, it's just part of a wider set of solutions. And I think if you start to look at the things that are being put out there now, in terms of people trying to explain it graphically, and you see this myriad of technologies and solutions, and automations, and the agentic element of it, and the processors, and linking all your softwares. It's how you draw the data in, how do you protect it. It's so complex. That's...
Yeah. And I often use you guys as an example, where I say, to me, AI is the calculator to the accountant. It's not replacing the accountant, but boy, it's a useful tool for you. I think AI is the same for every organisation, isn't it? It's a useful tool that will enable us to do more, but not necessarily replace us.
Oh yeah, massively. And I think where we've really benefited on it is actually getting the internal information out of the business, and that's, having been armed with great data, means that you make far better decisions.
You bet.
And whether that's efficiencies, or looking at where you're where you're hemorrhaging margins, or where you could you can give better insights and analysis. There's so many things you can do with it. So, and that's one of the reasons why we kept internally focused, because it protects us while we go on this journey, but it also means that we can make big changes and big benefits really quickly.
Sure. Now, one thing that this audience particularly will be interested in, and was a real focus for us through this project, is what do? Do you buy a solution off the shelf? Do you build your own? Do you look for partners, evolutions of their systems to do it? How do you work that out? You're a small company with limited resource.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge right now for a small business is horizon scanning, because there's so many options and possibilities out there. There's the existing products and players that are moving at pace, but then there's the new, more agile options that are coming out there. And trying to cut through all that is huge. I mean, we're a Google house, and do you stay at Google? Do you go Microsoft? So you're having big questions like that, let alone the fact that we've got, like we're Zero, so we've got a million different apps that we could put onto it. So which ones do we choose? And that's before you start even using the internal stuff that we use. So
it's not easy, is it? And I know that some of the things we looked at early in the exploration are now gone, redundant, no longer fit for purpose, or they've been superseded by another solution. And we're having that conversation with some custom build stuff we've done that now we might be able to do in Google, we might be able to do in Studio. So it's never ending, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to accept that you're going to waste a lot of time in certain areas, but you'll get some right, you'll get some wrong. And I think ultimately, if you have a plan and you have a strategic direction, as long as you keep on that direction, how you get there doesn't really matter sometimes. And you probably will not invent something, that's probably the wrong word, but you probably will develop something that can be done quicker, cheaper, and easier by a provider, but that's just the risk you take sometimes.
Yeah, I bet. And one other thing, regulated industry, governance, really high priority. How on earth do you tackle that?
Experts,
bringing the cavalry.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to rigorously test, robust, and everything. And when we do a project, it goes through a whole. We scope it. We send it off and get the architecture and the design and the costings back, so we know exactly what we want to do and how we're going to do it. And then we put that through a really rigorous check, which is something that we got off the ITO actually. So we go through this checklist, and by the time you get to that, you've got a project that is either Well, it's got to obviously have a return on investment, and it's got to tick all the boxes when it comes to the security element of it. And then, and if you do that, then it's got an option for moving forward. If it doesn't, we always say if it's a maybe, it's a no.
Love it. I think that's a great thing for everybody to use moving forward, isn't it? And I think for suppliers, giving you that confidence that governance is, in your world, beyond the
Yeah, and again, we won't just take the first version of that. We will sanity check and double check it.
You'll test and check again, and I think that's wise. And I think while we talk about this, we talked about the headlines of hype that confused us early on to those days. It's going to solve the world. It's going to replace accountancy. And I think we had some conversations to say, how many people could we lose? Those types of conversations, not just in yours, but as society, we were talking about that particular organisation. Ultimately, then, when we started to be really rigorous with the governance, it worked out actually we're needed. The people around are needed. How on earth did you bring the people on the journey? If we felt that concern, we know that the teams did as well.
I've seen this kind of question debated quite a lot, and it's different for me because that's not my experience. Because ultimately, we put the concept in front of the team, and we probably did explain it really well, and we had a clear vision. We did a lot of work, and we just didn't say AI is coming. But ultimately, and I will stick by this, is from our point of view personally, the technology is there to make people, remove the jobs that people don't like doing, and make us more competitive to protect our job and really increase market share. And I don't think any of our team would say no to that, because we're going to free their time up to do what they enjoy. And generally, for us, it's building client relationships and adding greater value to our clients. So rather than lots of paperwork and lots of analysis and lots of data entry, which nobody likes doing. No. So, and I think ultimately, they can see that we're growing, and we've got it's a foot race at the end of the day for the market share. It will shrink in terms of, from all aspects really, but it's still going to be a market there to go at. So let the technology do the hard work for you.
Sure. And building those innovation teams. I know I was fortunate to work with you guys on this, and I think having that energy from the team in different perspectives.
Oh yeah, and I think one of my latest hires was a continuous improvement manager, so somebody with actual accountancy knowledge, which helped. And but again, you marry the teams up, and it's she's been really good because she ties the work that we do at a leadership level to the team that the guys do, the work that the guys do on a regular basis. So, and get projects driven quicker, and ultimately the team feel the benefit of that. And again, who doesn't like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've asked lots of questions. We don't have a great deal of time, but I'll just ask any from the audience. Ian, let me pass you the mic, if I may. Sorry to wander with this.
Thanks. Question for both of you, really looking at the same thing. A lot of the work that I do is to try and help MSPs and sales teams get ready to work with customers like you. So as a customer, what would our team start to focus on and start to prioritize when they come to talk to an organization like you, so that we can be as much help and as little hindrance to your processes as we can be?
Okay, so I think I would probably say understand the business as what we actually do is a given, and then being able to cut through the jargon and the technical side of things, and really explain how your products and will help us and what it looks like in reality. And I think if you can back that up and explain it, and you can answer the difficult questions, you're definitely halfway to moving forward with that relationship.
I think from my perspective, Ian, I think it's we're in jargon overload. So actually having the really clear direction. I'm often working with clients and dragged into the boardroom for that CEO conversation, and it's so interesting because they don't want any of the technology. They just say, is it going to make us go faster? Are we at risk? What's the danger of doing this? Almost have that CEO. Don't worry about the technology. Just tell me what it's going to do and how it's going to help and how it's going to hinder. For us, is the critical thing. Demystify, remove the jargon. I've also seen very technical conversations and you lose people. You go around the room and it's such a shame because you know the solution's great. And then I feel like I'm playing referee between vendor and customer to say, no, it has got merit, it's worth listening to. Let's position this another way. And suddenly we get to the answer. So that for me is the biggest tip. Keep the jargon low. That brings us to time, but I've got one final question for Ben, which is, if you were to give advice, when did we start this? A year ago, 18 months ago?
Yes.
We've been at it a while.
Yeah.
If you were to find you 18 months ago, what advice would you give them today?
For me, it was about being open-minded, but having a team around you. Building that team. As a small business, you need expertise around you, so I can't stress that enough. And those partners can be internal, they can be software partners, they can be development partners, they can be all things to all people. You need a team that works the same way as you work, but gives you that balance.
Amazing. And to close us out, I think one question that we had very early in the conversation when we talked about the opportunities of AI is, will this make us uncompetable, meaning other firms that are not on your journey might not be able to keep up? Well, I think you laid the gauntlet down, and I think 18 months in, I think you're almost there. But so, ladies and gentlemen, with massive thanks, Ben Muncaster, Northern Accountants. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.